Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today's webinar is blanket purchase agreements. Should be rather interesting since a lot of people don't really know what it entails. Those of us who have been in the GSA arena for 30 plus years only understand one blanket purchase agreement, and that is under your GSA contract. However, there's a few other places that you need to know about. Hopefully today we can demystify where those areas are. At any time, please feel free to ask a question, and I do not mind being interrupted. In fact, I highly encourage it because that means you have a thought on your mind that we need to discuss. So we've got quite a few people today. Thank you all for joining again, and let's get started. My name is Michael Price, and I'll be your presenter today. Who am I? Been around far too long, and unfortunately, I just can't seem to retire because you can only play so much golf. And I'm not into pinochle yet since I left the service in '73. So I've worked on the beta teams for GSA, so I know a little bit about eOffer and SAM and GSA Advantage and a few of the other electronic devices that we now use within the government. And why do I do this? I actually had to change this slide because I didn't really understand why I wrote it in the first place. But I've been giving back to the community for many, many years and have helped create some monsters in the industry. They did all the hard work. I just showed them which direction to go in. And basically, experience matters. Over 32 years helping companies like yourselves get started in the government, or if you're already started in the government, help you expand the government. What we're going to cover today, government-wide schedule blanket purchase agreements. I'll just call them BPAs from now on. How are they different? How do you establish one? Something I learned, there are BPA Set-Asides. And of course, we can discuss open market items. And before I go any further, if you look at your control panel under View, there should be a check mark next to handouts. There's only 2 handouts today. And if you have a problem getting them, or for whatever reason your firewall won't allow it, I don't know what your situation is where you're located, please at the end send us an email and we'll make a download available for you. So let's keep on moving. What is a BPA? Let's start off with the GSA side. It's an agreement that established by you and the buyer and blah, 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 and all that other good stuff. It's covered under the FAR Section 8. And really, to demystify the government lingo, what it basically says is, if you're working with an agency, let's just take Fort Bragg, North Carolina, for example. They're doing a lot of building renovations right now. So those of you that are in that area, knock on the doors at Fort Bragg and see if you can scrounge up some business. If they're going to keep reordering and reordering and reordering as they move from building to building to renovate, and I'll give you a live example, they're swapping out their incandescent lights for LEDs, but they don't do them all at once. For economic reasons, they order by project, by building, by department. So that's recurring purchases. So we actually have a client that was able to secure a BPA to handle all of the conversions. Now, that was a couple of years ago, so I have no idea what's going on now. But basically, that's really what a blanket purchase agreement is recurring purchases without having to go through the order process each time. The order's placed, the money is allocated. In this case, I think it was a $3 million BPA. Not a bad way to earn a living for the coming year. So that's really what that paragraph says. What are the benefits for the government? It's that administrative burden. Streamline ordering. Think of a check register, if you will. Blank check register. First entry is $3 million. It's got your contract number on it with a -0 at the end, or -A, depends how they decide to number it. Usually it's a dash number at the end. And every time they place an order, you compare your check register, both of your check registers together. The buyer will say, I'm on -1, -2, -3, and that is 10,000, 20,000, whatever it happens to be, pick a number. So from that aspect, the order's already there. It's just a matter of putting a dash on the end, and those numbers should go sequentially. As you get near the end, or as they say, running out of money, the buyer can then refill the BPA for whatever they need, whatever they're obligating, whatever budget they've got left. That's pretty much what the first couple paragraphs are saying. The FAR actually gives preference to establish BPAs because it saves time, money, ultimately taxpayer money. The good news is they don't require the pre-obligation of funds. They spend it as they have it, which is nice, unlike a lot of contracts that you go out and bid on and you say, I got me a $7 million contract. And then the government says, we have to cancel the contract. We ran out of money. Well, you said I had 7 million. We didn't get the funding. So they can cancel that contract. With a BPA, it works entirely differently because they can move money around from different departments. Another nice thing about a BPA is that it can be for agency-wide. For example, Fort Bragg's Army. There's no reason the Department of Army couldn't issue a master BPA for all of the Army bases, whether it be North Carolina, East Coast, West Coast, wherever it happens to be. Happens a lot overseas with our Air Force, Army, Navy bases overseas. Then you have multi-agency. Kind of interesting little twist, which I never even explored before, but Homeland Security can get together with Coast Guard and Border and everybody else, and they can issue a master multi-agency BPA. No reason why the Army and the Navy couldn't get together and issue a multi-agency BPA. Any questions so far? This next slide is FSSI, which is something that I didn't really understand before because I never had a reason to get involved with it. So it's the program that everybody loves to hate or hates to love. I think it means the same thing. It's strategic sourcing. And it's based a lot on socioeconomic participation. They actually collaborate with the industry, which is something we don't see that much of. So FSSI is alive, well, and kicking. Some of the areas that are used quite a bit in the BPA arena, IT and services. Since professional services were allowed on GSA in particular, starting in 1996, and I know this because the company I was working with in Northern Virginia was the first one to get a services contract. And I got to tell you, that's like getting teeth pulled without Novocaine. It was painful and brutal. We got it done. And it's all taken off from there. Identity protection, obviously that's first on the list for a reason. And by the way, the verbose portion of this is in one of your handouts. It goes so much deeper than what I'm going to do today in the 30 minutes that we've allocated. And chances are this will be short. We'll end early anyway. Salesforce, not the CRM, as Salesforce. Software purchase, which is, I remember back in 1985, 84, 85, I worked for a couple software companies. The biggest problem we had was what's called site licensing. But then again, too, we also had started out, and I am dating myself, started out with 5¼ inch floppies, which I actually remember the 8-inch floppies, which if anybody's got one, I'd sure like a picture. Then we went to the 3½s. Then suddenly we're downloading everything. Enterprise Resource Planning, ERP as it's called. Still haven't figured out what that does, so maybe somebody can enlighten me. Just tell me what you think ERP is. I guess the words kind of tell you what it is, but I see it quite a bit. I've never had the chance to explore it. Then GIS is very, very popular right now within the government for obvious reasons, with all the satellites that are flying around in low orbit space. How many of you are in the travel business, lodging business, transportation business, emergency lodging services? This would probably slide more under disaster recovery, which we're going to do a webinar on that soon on disaster recovery. And let me give a quick plug. We're going to be doing order level materials next week. It'll be on Tuesday again. We didn't do it yesterday because of election day, shifted to Wednesday. Seemed to have a better participation on Wednesday, so we may switch back to Wednesdays after next week. I don't remember the first and second generation emergency lodging services, or ELS, but I guess it was there. Hard to believe that since its inception, 30 million room nights for hotels and apartments across the country. Can't imagine how many there would be in the territories. Primarily, this is for disaster, or I used to live in Palm Beach, home of the Hanging Chad, so without going there, you know what I'm talking about there. Some of the services offered: negotiated discounted rates, and I almost said the word pre-negotiated, and it reminds me of a comedian, may he rest in peace, George Carlin, who said, how can you do something before you do it? So, like pre-boarding on an aircraft. So, negotiated pricing. There's even a phone number there if you want to call the GSA office and get a better understanding. I'm sure they're going to be helpful there. I generally don't refer people to make calls because when they get inundated, then they say stop. A co-op event, for example, I go to the Veteran Small Business Engagement every year. I speak there. They've got rooms blocked off, and we get the special rate as speakers. Even some of the attendees, exhibitors, can take advantage of that co-op event for discounted rooms, and you can add additional users. How are scheduled BPAs different than regular traditional BPAs? The good news is that scheduled BPA rolls through the terms and conditions of your GSA contract. For those of you that have one, quite a few of you don't have one. As Joan Rivers once said, we need to talk. On a traditional BPA, it's the way it's negotiated. And I'm going to go into what I consider to be the disaster of BPAs over the last few years. I'll get into that probably right at the end of this slide. The advantage of using a scheduled BPA, obviously, because the pricing is already negotiated. And one of the facts that I keep neglecting to mention to everybody is that your GSA pricing is a quote unquote not to exceed price. It used to be in the beginning, the way all this was originally set up was that it was called best value. And the difference was you may not have the lowest price, but you had other terms, conditions, and I'll call them kickers in there that, free shipping or extended warranty or things like that would help the agency by not having to worry about, oh, is my warranty going to expire? Do I have to buy, after warranty services or things like that? That's not the way it is anymore. It's based on your negotiated price, and that is a not to exceed for the buyer. I got a little ahead of myself on that other slide. The BPA terms and conditions flow from your schedule to the BPA, and the buyer can't alter it. Now, comma, quote, asterisk, whatever you want to call it, it's whatever, according to the government, it's whatever you and the agency agree on. If you agree that with the agency, or the agency agrees with you, and you negotiate that part that says, okay, because we're giving you such a large BPA, we'd like you to ship to us free inside the United States. Depending upon how big the article is, it may not be such a bad deal. It doesn't cost you all that much to begin with. Plus the fact your shipping is probably already included in your pricing. Very seldom have I ever seen an organizational conflict with any schedule. There should never be, as we're looking at the third bullet, there should never be any conflict between your schedule and the BPA itself. If there is, you contact your GSA contracting officer, which in most cases will be your contracting specialist. Set-asides. How many of you are small disadvantaged, 8A, woman-owned, service-disabled vet, Native American, hub zone? I think I got them all. There are set-asides for BPAs, which this is the part where I'm going to deflect a little bit. I'm trying to remember the year. It was probably, I'll say 10 years ago. Had a client that actually did manufacturing of CDs and DVDs. We'll just call them glass. They manufactured glass with Polaroid's name on it for Polaroid. I don't even know if they're still doing it or not. We submitted our offer to GSA. After we got it submitted, we get a notification that they have shut down Group 75, which is your media and office supplies, and that was the old Office Depot and Staples debacle, for 2 years. Everybody had to buy from those two companies under Master BPA with GSA. Anybody remember that? Hopefully you weren't caught up in it. However, as we were going through the clarification, negotiation, and award process, the contract specialist reminded me that if for any reason this offer gets rejected, we have to wait 2 years. They were going to go through and award it. We got it awarded. They did a lot of business with the government over and above and outside the two BPAs that were issued to Office Depot and Staples. So it happened again for janitorial supplies about 4 years ago, called Jansan. And that knocked out one of my guys, service disabled vet, right here locally. And we had to sit around twiddling our thumbs for 2 years, waiting for the BPA to expire. I understand they're going to try to do it again, but he's already got his contract, so it doesn't matter. The important thing is never to lose your contract. Any questions? Let me read one here really quick. How long does it take to get a GSA contract? I might as well just post this question as standard. I get it every single webinar, and I'm happy to answer it because that's what we do. That's all we do. Depending upon which FSC, Federal Supply Class, that you're looking at, IT happens pretty quickly. If you're looking at law enforcement and specialty clothing, fire retardant suits and, fire and law enforcement and all that, Brenda actually told me a while back it's going to take a year because everybody's trying to get in that particular category. So be prepared for a year on that one. Building supplies, I was extremely fortunate when we dealt with our vendor in North Carolina. I actually submitted, well, it took him forever to get his contract. I didn't negotiate it, but we did a modification on Christmas Eve, small modification. I figured it'd take 2, 3 days, Christmas holiday, whatever. We were dealing direct with a senior contracting officer who has since moved on over to commodity, and I'm going to try to get him to be a panelist on a commodity GSA webinar coming up. I'm in the process of planning it now, see if I can get him to say, yep, love nothing more than to get more business driving his way. An hour later, he approved the mod on Christmas Eve. Now, there's a dedicated contracting officer, and it hurt us tremendously when he moved on to a different division, but he's been around a while. He's that good, and the gentleman that he trained to take his place is trying to step right up in his shoes. Thank you for the question. And of course, the same question comes back for VA. The bad news is VA still works off of a Word document. You fill in the blanks, which could be kind of easy in some cases. However, it's a pain because when you're finished, you don't submit it electronically. You have to print 2 copies, put it in a 3-ring binder with tabs, and as one famous singer said, pictures and arrows describing what each one's about on the back, and it takes forever. We did one for a client a few years back. They lost it. Well, the good news was I just had to hit print, and they had it again. 18 months to award their contract. I read an article not too long ago that said the VA finally hollered uncle. I guess they got their arm twisted enough and said they're going to now move their solicitations to e-offer, which will make it completely electronic, which should speed it up, hopefully much shorter than 18 months. I'd be happy with 6 months at that point. Any other questions, please? Let me take a moment and read this one. Yes, that rumor you heard is correct. We will be, as soon as I get the time to finish reviewing and approve it and have it looking good, we will be starting our own blog. And I'm embarrassed to say that. We should have done it years ago, but we will be starting our own blog. And you will be able to subscribe to any feed that's coming out, and it'll be on topic. We a lot of times like to pull content from the authority. And of course, you have to give attribution to the author of it, but you will be able to submit comments and begin that discussion. So thank you for that question, Bill. Next question. Oh, pricing. I just saw the one word pricing. Let me talk about pricing. GSA in particular, and even the regular open market procurements, when you're filling out, preparing, compiling a request for proposal, which becomes a proposal, the government, and I always use GSA because I worked very closely with that tool that GSA now uses. They actually run your pricing, and the government's doing this also because they have a site license for the tool itself. They run a comparison against who's out there. They not only just look at what's on a contract, any of the number of the GWACs, government-wide acquisition contracts, or GSA contract. It used to be just GSA. Now what they do is they're actually looking at open market. So if you're looking at IT, for example, they're going to look at Amazon, eBay, and Best Buy, and all the big boys, just to see what the market or street price is. There's a tool, we have access to it, we pay dearly for the license, where for our client in North Carolina, we actually ran his pricing, schedule pricing, against the tool and came back with where we were in the top 5, hopefully, we were in the top 5 of all of them, of contract pricing. He turned to me and said, I want you to reduce my pricing and make it $1 cheaper than the lowest one on GSA. That's what took him from, now remember, this is building supplies, Lowe's, Home Depot, plug sockets, light switches, light bulbs, that kind of stuff, cheap stuff. He was at $1 million in sales at the time. By the end of that year, which was about 8, 9, almost 9 months, he jumped from $1 million to $2 million by just lowering his prices a couple of percentage points to get underneath the lowest price on GSA. So pricing does matter on GSA. It used to be best value, not any longer. It is now best price because almost all the other terms and conditions are exactly the same. Thank you for that question, Steve. We're just about right. Oh, here we go. What's the name of that pricing tool? Good question, Angela. Unfortunately, you can't get it. I worked to have it, the development modified for us, and GSA uses it now. And a license, if you take it generic the way it is, will cost you between $16,000 and $24,000 a year. I'll give you a hint. If you want us to run your pricing for you, we can do it a lot cheaper and do it not as often or more often, whichever. And you're with the direct license, you are capped on how much you can use it because of the bandwidth. Because remember now, the whole government's using it. And it's called, wait a minute, mine's different. It is price analysis. No pun intended. Price analysis. But it's going to run you about 16 to 20,000, 24,000. They may have gone up, I don't know. And it's a great tool, but it's going to eat up horsepower. And if you make a mistake, you got to start it all over again and resubmit it. So contact me after the webinar, and I'll be glad to send you some examples of how we did it. We actually did a webinar. In fact, if you go back and look at our videos on our website, you'll see one on pricing analysis. And we actually show you sample printouts of what I did with the 3M product line. Of course, they're all dummy prices, but you'll get a good idea. Hopefully that answers your question. And I'm saving the best for last. We're basically finished, but I'm going to give you one opportunity to save some money now that we're in daylight savings time and the holidays are coming. We have a special offer for you. How many of you actually have a VA contract or a GSA contract now? Think about that. If you do, go to bullet 2. If you don't, and it was interesting because as I sidelined very quickly, I saw a Google alert that came through and said, we are SAM certified. Okay, what is SAM certified? I helped develop SAM years ago. Well, it wasn't called SAM then. What is SAM certified? You register. It's like registering to vote. Are you voter certified? You can get certified to drive a car, fly an airplane, but I've never heard of SAM certified. They do not have a contract, but they are working under the misnomer that if I'm registered in SAM, I'm going to get business. There's a reason that we reach out to you every couple of weeks because we do the research to see who has a contract, who accepts credit cards. 2-3 weeks ago, we did a webinar on credit cards. They're mandatory to do business with the government. If you do not accept credit cards, you must set up a credit card account. You can do some what's called micro purchase, $3,500 and less, and the government does not have to put it out for bid, quote, competition. They can buy from you, but they can't do it all the time. It does not replace a contract. It violates the Competition and Contracting Act. We talk about that in some of our other videos. You can look at them right off our website. They're all on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Feel free anytime. We've redone our frequently asked questions. So a lot of the questions that you haven't thought to ask, you can go look at. Industrial funding fee, service disabled vet, woman owned. We did a webinar on woman owned. Those of you that missed it, watch the replay. If you want to get a contract, one of the first things you're going to have to do before you get your contract is you're going to have to be able to accept credit cards. 65% of the people registered on SAM do not accept credit cards. How can you do business that way? The government can't do business with you. Whether it's large or small purchase, they want to use a credit card, get it off their desk, let accounting deal with it. That's the good news. Here's one that's worse. Over 70% of the people registered on SAM do not have a website. First thing that GSA asks, do you accept credit cards? Do you have a website? Can I look at your products? Can I look at your services? Can I learn more about you? SAM record doesn't give them everything. One piece of advice, do not let your SAM registration expire. It is really, really inconvenient when it expires. Two things happen. Number one, you need the certified notarized letter. The most important two things is the government cannot do business with you if your SAM record isn't active. It goes inactive. Number two, you can't get paid. You just did $1 million order yesterday and your SAM record expires today. They can't pay you until your SAM record goes active. There's the code you can use. Feel free to send us an email and be more than happy to discuss your situation. Here's some helpful links for you. And in the slides that you can download, hopefully you've already downloaded them. If not, shoot an email and I'll be more than happy to help direct you where you can get them. See if you qualify. It says for GSA contract, pretty much the same thing for VA. Did you know there's 1,300 VA hospitals and they're building more in the country? There are 550 clinics, which are usually strategically placed in between hospitals. In South Florida, I have Miami VA Hospital and West Palm VA Hospital, but I've also got 3 local clinics for non-invasive procedures, no surgery, no things like that. And if you need help getting it done, more than happy to help you. Take a look at Experience Matters, which I think you'll be surprised at some of the companies we've helped become very successful in the government. We also have the webinar schedule, which I've been very remiss in casting out over the next few weeks. I'm going to work on that this weekend. And we have our video library. If there's something you'd like to see for a webinar topic, shoot us an email. Be more than happy to entertain it. Thank you for attending. This is our contact slide. And you can get to all of this directly from the slides themselves. And if there's no more questions, we'll be ending the webinar for all. I believe there might be a 1-question survey at the end. Please take about 30 seconds to take a look at it. We really appreciate it. And next week is order level materials if you've got a contract. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you soon.